Alright, today I'm going to show you how to create a banner from scratch. If you like this video, please be sure to like the video and hit the bell to subscribe so you can see more of my content. So before I get started, I'm just going to set my fill color to none. And my stroke color is already set to black. Just going to grab my curvature tool here and draw a line just by clicking one point and then move your mouse over and click another point. And then I'm going to add another point just by clicking on the line, about 3/4 of the way over, and another point about 1/4 of the way over. You can just eyeball that. So all you got to do now is just drag this point up, drag this point down. You can put as much or as little curve into your banner as you like. You see how this little tail just keeps on going here? If you just come over here and click up in the selection tool, that goes away. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just hit Control C and Control V. So that makes a copy of the curvy line that we just drew. So let's put this in alignment. You can see by the little pink line, when you click on it and move it, there's a little pink line that comes up. There's all kinds of little pink lines. But on the right hand side, when you move this around and it intersects, so you can see now you have two exactly the same. So what you want to do now is you want to smooth these down. Deselect everything. Now we're going to select these two lines. What we want to do now is join these to make, instead of two lines, one shape. So what you do is you just make sure you have both selected. Just right click and hit join. You see it fills in a little path here between these two ends of these two lines. Now you do that again, join, and it'll fill in this side. So if you deselect that just by clicking off it, you can see that you got your path joined up. So now you have the one shape in the shape of the banner. Okay. So now we got to put a fill color in there. So since we're doing 3 different lots of banners, I'm just going to select, let's select our shape. Go back into our swatches palette. Just make sure you highlight a part of each one of these and it'll select them all. Then you can just hit delete. They're kind of in the way there. They don't need to be there. Okay. Now we're going to select our banner shape. And we're going to give it a color. So we go back and get our swatches palette. The first one we're going to do is orange and black. Just click on your orange. So when you click it, it comes up as the stroke of the shape. We don't want it as the stroke of the shape. We want it as the fill of the shape. We also want to put a black stroke on that. So you can see the shape now has a orange fill and a black stroke. So far so good. Okay, I'm not going to close this because I'm going to be using it. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller and chuck it out of the way. My dog is barking. I'm going to have to pause this video and let her in. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay, so the border looks a little thin. We're going to select it again. Our selection tool is chosen up here. We're just going to click on it. And it selects it. What we want to do is change the width of the stroke. Make it a little bit wider. So let's just make it a 3. That's a little too bold. So 1 is not enough, 3 is too much. So we're going to go with a 2. Okay, that'll be good. We can change it later if we like. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to make another copy of this because we want to have some dashed lines around this. So let's select that again. We'll copy it. We'll make it a little bit smaller. Well, we can adjust this as we see fit. So you can see with the curvature in it, we're going to have to adjust the curvature somewhat. We'll just make it a little bit smaller here. Pull it down again. Now, we're going to adjust these lines because they got to be exactly the same proportions as the bottom shape, just a little bit smaller. So let's start by selecting the second layer of that shape. Let's go into our curvature tool. Now we're going to drag these lines until they look like a decent shape. And they only need to be a tiny bit in from the outside of the shape itself. And then we're going to do some cool stuff here. Now this got a lot of points on it. This side is fine. Let's get rid of some of these points. Let's get rid of all the points here on the bottom. And then we'll drag it as necessary. Okay, so what we did before is we put one about 3/4 of the way over, which we'll do that again. One about 1/4 of the way over, then we just dragged it. And then that should work. Okay. I'm just going to come down here. And we're probably going to need to put another point here. And another one here. Drag this one down just a tiny bit. And we'll do the same with the top one. We'll just drag it around until it looks right. I think that looks good. Oh, it doesn't look good. There's a spot here that needs to be fixed. So we'll get our curvature tool again. And we'll just put another point in. Say. Okay, that should be okay. So the bottom shape got to have a solid color and a stroke. The top shape doesn't need a solid color. We don't want a solid color. We just want the outline. So we're going to get rid of the stroke. We're going to first make sure that we have the right thing selected here. Okay. So we'll get rid of this fill color. Take that out. You can't tell because the orange is behind it. Okay. So now we're going to work on the stroke of this line. So what you do is you select the stroke. Up top here, you can see that it says stroke and it has some little dotted lines under it. You just click on that. Now you can see right here it says dashed line. And when you hit dashed line, it comes up as 3-pixel border. Looks like stitching. You can make it as big or as small as you want. You can make it 10. I wouldn't recommend it, but it doesn't look too bad. You can even put in a space of 3, another stroke of 5, 3, 5, or sorry, 10, and 2. You can put in whatever numbers you want in there. And that'll give you an oddly shaped stroke with odd sized dashes. But we don't really want to do that. We just want to have regular intervals between the dashes to simulate stitching. So in order to do that, you just take out all the other ones. If you don't have them in there, it doesn't count them. The only one you really need to have in there is the first one. So we're going to go with a stroke of 4. And a gap of 1. Okay. 4 doesn't seem like very much. Let's try it again. I'll take out this 1. Let it decide on its own what it wants to be. We'll make this into a 8. There. Okay, so we got our stroke. There you go. So next thing we have to do is make these other little shapes here. The little bends and the little tail of the banner on each side. So in order to avoid having to go through all that again, setting up the background and the fill color and the stroke color and the stroke dashes and whatnot, we're going to go into graphic styles. Just remember that you have 2 separate shapes here. You have this one, which is just no fill and a black dashed line. So we're just going to drag that over into our graphic styles. So here you can see that it shows a dashed line style. So anything that you apply this layer style to, it won't have a fill. It'll just have a dashed outline. And the other thing we want to add to our graphic styles is our bottom, which has a fill color of orange and a stroke of black. So you just hover your mouse over until you get that little rectangle box. Sometimes if you try it without doing that, it just moves it and it doesn't put it into the graphic style palette. So we're just going to hold our mouse down and drag that over as well. Okay. That much is done. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make this little shape. That's the back of the ribbon, as if the ribbon was folded backwards. So it's going to be a little bit darker shade than the front color. And to make this, all I do is take my curvature tool and I draw a 3-point shape. And yes, I know it looks like a circle or an egg, because each of these points is a rounded point. I have my own terminology. Some stuff I'm not really sure what the technical name for it is, but let's just call this a corner point. We're going to hit our Alt key and click on this line, and it's going to turn it into a corner point, which means it's going to be a sharp corner. So now now we have a triangle. So you can see that this is kind of like a triangle in here. So we're just going to get a little slightly different color than what this is, just a little bit darker. Let's see. Nope. Try that. That looks okay. And we are going to drag that over and position it into place. So this corner point has to be exactly in the same place as the corner point on the top part there. I'll just zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. And we're going to open up our layers palette. I try not to have this open if I don't need it. Okay, so you can see in the layers palette, this is our triangle. This is our border, our banner, sorry. So we're going to drag this down beneath, because that has to hide away, sort of. So if you drag that in there now, you can see it's sort of part of it gets hidden away. So we're going to take it and rotate it a little bit. And we're going to line that up right there so that it looks like this banner is folded. And you can see we still got a little bit of a jaggedy point here. I'm going to try to get rid of that. I'll do that by just clicking on the path, selecting the stroke. When you go into stroke here, you can pick the corner type that you want. Let's try this one. Okay, that did it. That got rid of that for me. Okay, looks good. Now we also want to have a little stroke, dash stroke inside the shape as well. Our layers disappeared again. Okay, so we're going to duplicate this. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to draw a new one. Let's just turn this off, the visibility on this banner off for a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. And we'll turn off the visibility on this. I'm also going to show you how to group the items so that they sit together, and if you turn the visibility off on them, you turn off all parts of the actual item. So it might be a good idea if we did copy this. Okay, now we have a copy. This we want to make a little bit smaller than this. But right now we're going to just turn off the fill color, and we're going to take the stroke here and set that to our dashed line. Okay, so you can see now that we have that done. Now this is still just a stroke on a shape. So if we click our curvature tool, we can drag any of these points. So let's just drag this one to here, this one to here, and this one to here. Okay, whoops, not bad. Okay, our layers is right here. Okay, so this is our dashed line here. Let's just drag this down on top of here. And we're going to group these together, and we're going to call this right hand bend. So to group something, just highlight both, select both shapes, click Control G, and you see that it turns into a group. We're going to call it bend right side. Okay, now we're going to turn this on. And we're going to also group this dash stroke and the background shape. So just select both of those layers, hit Control G. Now you got another group. We'll call that one main banner. And in that group now there are two layers, the stroke itself and the actual shape with the stroke on the outside. Alrighty. We also want to save this style as well, because we have another one of these to do. So just two. It won't get the dashes. Let's just turn the visibility off on it. So we'll drag that into the graphic style. So you got your lighter orange and your darker orange with a black stroke. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the dashed lines back on this. Close up this group. Now we're going to select the group. We'll zoom out a little tiny bit so we can see what we're doing. Now we're going to hit Control C and Control V. And that gives us another group just like that group we just copied. The only thing we need to do with this now is drag this down too, and it's called bend right side as well. We're going to call it bend left side. Now this needs to be rotated 180 degrees. So to do that, Just make sure it's selected. Right click, transform, and rotate. 180 degrees. Okay. And it rotated 180 degrees. We're going to just drag it up here now and try to line up this corner the best we can. Zoom in a little. Looks good. This might need to go up a little small bit. We just, with the selection tool, we just click on it and it selects the whole group. So we're just going to give this a little nudge with our arrow key, our up arrow key. Because you can see right down here in the corner, it kind of hangs out a little bit. We don't want that. Let's just move it up a tiny bit. Okay, we nudged it up a little bit there. Looks good. Okay, we're looking good. Okay, next thing we need to make now is these little tails. So to do that, we want the tails about the same height as the banner itself, but they're going to be offset a little bit. So grab your your curvature tool and just click a shape out with 5 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then click in here to join it up. So now we want to change all these points to corner points. So hit your Alt key, click on the shape, click on the point. And let it go in between points. Let the Alt key go in between points. If you don't, it's probably not going to work right. Okay, so you can see we're somewhat close here. Let's just drag this down to here just for size. We're just playing now. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect because it's replicating a piece of fabric which can be bent or twisted any which way, so it doesn't matter. Make these a bit pointier if you want. Now if you want, you can click in the middle of this path here on the top of this tail piece and put a point in there and just slightly drag it down to give it a little tiny bit of curve, and you can do the same on the bottom. And you can do the same in here. Just a tiny bit. And push one in and haul one out. It looks a little bit, oh, that's cute. Okay, the only thing about this now is it's the wrong color. So we're just going to select that shape. And we're going to click on the graphic style, which is the same color as our main banner. There. Okay, so this is up slightly higher than it should be on our layers order. It's right here. So if we drag that over, it's going to go over top of what we already have there. We don't want that. So we're just going to make sure that's selected, and we're going to drag that down underneath the little triangle pieces as well. Then we can take it and move it to match it up to the top corner of the triangle piece on the left hand side. Deselect it, and you can see the corner is not quite right there. Let's just select it again, move it down a little tiny bit. Just by using your arrow keys, you can nudge it just a pixel or so, just until you get it just the way you want it. Let's see. That doesn't look too bad there. So again, we need to put another stroke in here with our dashed line. So let's draw out our shape a little bit inside of that line. Make sure you have no fill selected and a black stroke. And we're going to just duplicate that shape, only make it a little bit smaller. Hit your Alt key and hit that point to make it a corner point. Do the same with that, make it a corner point. If not, you're going to get a curved line. See? Didn't do it with these. I got curved lines. So we'll have to do it afterwards. So this one needs to be done. Just hold your Alt key, click the point. Oops. Hold your Alt key, click that point as well. Didn't work. Try it again. There you go. Hold your Alt key and click this point. There. So now you need to add a little bit of curvature to these to make them match the shape of the outside shape. Just by putting your mouse on the line, on the stroke, and adding a point, you can give it a little bit of a curve. You don't want too much, just enough so that it follows the same lines as the shape on the outside. Okay, that looks okay. You can see that this stroke is up over everything, so we're going to go back to our layers, which is hid away right here. I'm not sure where yours is, but mine gets hid away, and I try to keep them closed as much as I can so that when I go in and try to open them, they pop right up. Okay, so we're going to just, this is our point for this. Okay, we're just going to drag that down. That needs to be on top of this tail piece here. Okay, so we got a graphic style set up for that with a black stroke. We just click here and it turns it into a dashed line. Okay, so we don't need to do that all over again. We can just make a copy of this now and give it a spin 180 degrees. So we want to group these two layers. So this is our dashed stroke, smaller than our regular shape, and this is our shape with the black stroke and the orange fill. So we're going to select both layers. We're going to hit Control G. That'll group them together. Now what we want to do is call this tail left. That's the left-hand tail of the banner. So I think it looks pretty good. We're going to select this group. We're going to hit Control C and Control V. And we are going to transform it. There is another way to do that so that you can copy and transform at the same time, but I'm not going to get into that today. Just going to right click on this, hit transform, and rotate. And I've been using 180 today, so that's already in there. If you want it 180, click OK, and it'll spin right around for you. Okay, so now we want to poke that in there. Line it up best we can. And you can see that this copy is still on top of our main components that we're using here. That needs to be under the banner, under the triangle. There you have it. So that's our shape. The next thing we're going to do now is add a bit of text on the path there. I'm not really good at this, but I do know how to do it somewhat, so we're going to give it a go. Okay, what I want to do is I want to make a copy of this stroked path because that's the shape I want my text to follow. So I'm just going to select that. I'm going to hit C and V to make a copy of it. Okay. I'm going to haul it down here because I'm going to do my text separately from this. on your text tool, if you right click, third one down says type on a path tool. That's what we want. So as soon as we hit this now, it's going to come up with some weird characters, I think. What you do is you just hover your mouse over your path and you'll see there's a curvy line. And you want it to come up in pink letters saying path. So just click there. There we go. It puts random characters, filler characters all the way around the shape. We don't want all that. So we're just going to highlight this bit here while we have our text tool selected, and we'll just hit our backspace key to get rid of some of this. Then when we get it to the shape and approximate shape and position we want it, we're going to edit it. Okay. So one of the teams I'm working on is called Harbor Gray Starts. It's a little community that gets me to do some shirts. So we'll just highlight that. And we'll say HARBO Race. I don't really like that font. I'll just hit Control A to select it, and I'm going to go up here and choose a different font. I think I'm going to try this one, Good Brush. And you can see it's gone around the corner here. We don't want that. We're just going to hit our direct selection tool. And you see right here at the very beginning of your text, I'm going to zoom this in so you can see it. At the very beginning of your text here, let's move this out of the way. There's a vertical line. I used to get fooled up because I would always try to drag these little boxes to drag my text in. I could never get it to work. So you just hover your mouse over here until you get a little arrow. I don't know if you can see that or not. Just beneath my cursor, there's a little arrow pointing to the right hand side. I'm just going to grab that and drag it over here. So now the only space big enough for text is between these two lines, which is no good to me. So we got to do the same with this one. That's your outer limit of your text. So we're just going to haul this over. There. Now we got our text in there. Just zoom out. When you type text on a path and you have a fill color set up, the fill color goes away. I just figured that out not long ago. So now I'm just going to select that with my direct selection tool. You still see you still have your shape there. It's just got the text wrapped around the shape. So again, just hover your mouse until you get a little rectangular box with little handles on it. Pop up there. I'm just going to drag that up here and position it in the most sensible place, which I think will be about right here. I think that's good. If I didn't like that shape, I could just grab my direct selection tool if I wanted to alter the shape on it. And I could put a point in here and I could just haul it down a little bit. Which I don't want to fool with it. No, I don't want to fool with that. Oops, I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay. Let's delete this. Okay, so get with your selection tool. I need to reposition this. It's not in the right spot. I'm just going to move it down a small bit just by pushing my arrow key and over a little tiny bit. Okay. So that's how you do a banner and add curved text to a banner. That's just one of the shapes of banners that you can do. There's lots of other different ones. If you want to get an idea of different shapes, you can go online and Google clip art banners and you can see all the different shapes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change some of this coloring. Looking for my swatches, which are right here. Okay, so under graphic styles, we don't really need that anymore because we have already set up our template. Let's go in swatches. Let's try a dark blue and a light blue stroke and light blue text. How's that? So let's grab this one. So if we're looking in our layers palette here, we're going to look for our left tail, and we're going to change the solid color part of the tail. So in order to do that, it's already highlighted. All I need to do is just click on the blue. And that changes the stroke color to blue. I didn't want us to change the stroke color to blue. I wanted to change the stroke color to baby blue. Okay. So now I got the baby blue stroke, the dark blue background. I think I will add this to graphic styles to make the other ones easier to do. So now I just drag that into graphic styles. Now, when I go into path for my banner, which I now have selected, all I have to do is click on this and it does it for me. I'll change the stitching color in just a little bit. So now we're going to do this one, which is the right tail. Well, they're both called left tail. This is actually the right tail. We'll highlight that one. We'll get this graphic style and it changes it to a color with dark blue fill and a light blue stroke. Now what we need to do for the inside part, we're going to close these tail pieces there for a minute just by clicking on the little drop down arrow. It'll close up all the contents of that. We're going to go into our bend on the right side. So we want it very similar to this. We just need it a little darker. So we're just going to go in here. We're going to give it that dark blue color. But we're going to go click on the fill color and we're going to choose a little bit darker. Probably almost a black. Okay, I think we're good there. Alright, so we click back into our layers again. Now, we're going to drag this over, set up our graphic style for that color. So now when we click on this one, okay, we're going to change the text color next. We're going to change that to a baby blue. So let's go into our swatches here. Baby blue. Now we want to change our stitch color to baby blue as well. So we'll just grab this set of stitches here. And we'll go into our swatches. Make sure our stroke is selected. And hit baby blue. And it does it for you. We don't need to set that up as a graphic style. It's fairly straightforward how to do that. Just highlight it. Hit select your layer. Make sure you got the right layer selected. Oh, got it all selected. This is grouped together. Okay, now we're going to hit baby blue on that. Now we need to get the rest of the stitching and set that to baby blue as well. Oops. There. And all we got left to do now is stitching on the tails. This one, baby blue, stitching, baby blue. And that's how to do a banner.